everybody, how you doing? Today we're going to build the 630 around the block single speed. My name is Peter. If you do need any help, please don't hesitate to call us at 310-982-2877 or email the team at sixthreezero.com. We will either answer the phone if it's between 9 and 5 Pacific time, or we'll get back to you quickly with an email. All you'll need to do to start the assembly is get some scissors. We do recommend that you use your own tools, although the bike does come with tools, and I'm going to build the bike with the tools that come inside the box. They're pretty rudimentary tools. They will get the assembly done, but it'll be easier if you have a more professional set of tools. Let's get going. We'll just open the box. I'm going to pull out the seat box right here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull the bike out. There's also a rack comes with it. And we have two more boxes. A small parts box. And a box with the assembly manual, a welcome booklet, and the tools. So I'll go ahead and open up this box first. And we'll pull our tools out. Grab my scissors. Just cut the sticker. There are the tools, which are a multi-tool. You'll need the 15 millimeter, 13 millimeter, and 14 millimeter, and 10 millimeter parts of it. And then also we have a 4 millimeter, 5 millimeter, and 6 millimeter Allen wrench. And on the ends of the 5 millimeter and 6 millimeter Allen wrenches are Phillips heads. We also have the assembly guide and a welcome book. I'm going to go ahead and set the tools aside for the moment. Get my scissors back out. And we have several zip ties that need to be cut. And the handlebars. Down here is the seat post. Pull the front wheel out. And here we have the bike ready to go. But the first thing that we'll do is we'll go ahead and turn the fork around forward, just like that. There's a part in the fork right here, a black piece of plastic. That's not part of the bike. It's just packaging. It's called a fork protector. It's so that the forks don't go through the box. But this can be discarded. It's trash. Now what I like to do to get started is go ahead and install the front wheel first. And that way we can find that the bike will hold itself up while we finish the rest of the bike. On the front wheel, on either side, there are circular pieces of plastic like this. These are also just packing materials. These can be discarded. And you'll find already installed on the wheel is an axle nut on each side. These are 15 millimeter axle nuts. And then they also have safety washers, which is a washer with a little hook on it. I'm going to loosen these. They've been tightened down for packaging so that they won't be lost in the box, hopefully. Sometimes they do come loose. It happens occasionally. Get those pretty loose so that we can get those safety washers into their spot on the front fork. Go ahead and we can remove the packaging from the fork. And just slip the wheel into the forks and let the dropouts go onto the axle with both the washers and the nuts on the outside of the fork. We'll rest right there. At this point, go ahead and put the kickstand down. The bike will hold itself. And now let's go ahead and tighten the wheel down. You can pull out the multi-tool and we'll pull out the other tools. And just find the size that fits. It is a 15 millimeter if you're using your own wrench set. For the safety washer, the washer has a little hook that will go into a hole in the fork, and then you can tighten down both of the nuts, the 15mm nuts. As you do it, make sure that the wheel is centered. It can be off to one side or the other. It's common on any bike for that to occur. Just make sure that when you are tightening down the nuts, that you have the front wheel centered nicely. All right, we'll tighten that down with the 15mm opening on our multi-tool here. And you want these to be as tight as you can get them. That's not true for everything on a bicycle. Bicycles require a little more finesse than a car does in terms of tightening down fasteners. But there are a few parts, such as the axle nuts, that do need to be tightened as much as possible. There are other nuts on bikes, other nuts and screws that can be stripped or broken quite easily because they're smaller and lighter parts than you might if you're used to working on an automobile. So there we go. There's the front wheel installed. The kickstand is down, so it's holding itself up. I'll set my multi-tool to the side. And now what I'm going to do is just go ahead and unpackage the bike. You may like to keep some of the packaging on as you work to protect the bike while you are working on it. I'm going to take the packaging off so that it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. The chain guard here, by the way, sometimes, not often, but sometimes it may be rubbing on the chain. You can just actually move it. It's just a small piece of metal that's can be manipulated and nudged a little bit if it needs to be. It's making a little bit of a noise. Shouldn't rub, but sometimes it does. Okay, so there's the packaging, and then we'll work our way from the bottom up. So we'll start with the pedals. The pedals have an unusual feature, so please pay attention, because if you haven't built a bike before, then this is something you probably don't know, which is that there's a difference between the left pedal and the right pedal, and they are marked clearly so that they will go into the right spot the right way. There's a right pedal, and it's marked with an R, and then a left pedal, of course, marked with an L. The right pedal has regular threads, right-hand threads, which means you tighten it in by screwing it in clockwise, which is normal. That's what you're used to doing when you're tightening any sort of threaded fastener. However, the left pedal is left-hand thread or reverse threaded. So instead of righty-tighty on the left pedal, it's lefty-tighty. Another way of thinking about it is that both pedals will be turned towards the front of the bike to tighten them, okay? So I'll go ahead and put the right pedal in on the right side. The right side of the bike is the right when you're sitting on the bicycle. So the chain side here is the right side. So I find my right pedal, and I can put that in, usually most of the way with just my fingers. If it starts to tighten down or gets too small in there because it's a narrow opening, we'll use the 15mm and just tighten that up. The pedals again are another area where you can go ahead and tighten those as much as you can. So there's the right pedal. Now the left pedal, again, we're going to turn this one counterclockwise instead of clockwise. Counterclockwise on the left pedal going towards the front of the bike until it catches, and then just tighten it in the same way as the right pedal. It's going nicely, but now it's starting to get a little too tight to get my fingers in there, so I'll grab the 15mm portion of the multi-tool. Some conventional wrenches may actually be a little too thick to get into this area, so the multi-tool can help you with that if your wrench is too wide to get in there to tighten the pedal. Okay, cool. So now we have the pedals. The next thing I would do is install the seat and the seat post. Now, we're going to put this seat on the seat post before we put it into the bicycle. I'm going to tell you why. This happens to everybody. It's happened to me several times, but it is not very difficult to actually lose the seat post all the way down inside the bicycle, and it can be hard to get out. It can always be gotten out. I've never had one that I didn't get out, but sometimes it can take a very long time. So it's safer to go ahead and put the seat onto the seat post first, and then we'll put it in here, and then there's no danger of the seat post slipping down to the seat tube. So we'll go ahead and remove the seat from the box that it's in. Sometimes during transit, the clamping assembly on the seat will fall apart. It doesn't happen too often. As you can see, this one came all together. However, these aren't threaded on very far because they can't be really without you having to get them off without a tool. Sometimes this clamp falls apart and then the pieces are everywhere. We have a video for that. It's actually quite simple to put this back together, but you should watch our video, okay? If that happens to you, or give us a call and we'll walk you through it. Go ahead and grab the seat post. It's called a pillar, and there's a narrower end of it. This needs to go into the seat clamp, and there is a V-shaped tab at the top of the clamp. The seat post must go all the way to that V-shaped tab. If it doesn't go all the way, you'll never get a tight enough grip on the thing, and the seat will always slip one way or the other. So just do it right, put it all the way to the V-shaped tab, and then that way you know that you'll get it clamped properly. This one is either a 13 or a 14. They switch from time to time, so this looks like a 14 to me, but it may be a 13 on your bike. It depends. I don't know why that switches every now and then, but sometimes it does. I'm just going to use the slot on the multi-tool that works. Now, when you're tightening these, there are two nuts, and these need to be tightened evenly. So don't just tighten one and then tighten the other one. Tighten them both evenly. So I'm going to tighten this one a bit. A few turns here. What we want to do is engage all of the threads on the double-ended bolt in the nut, so that we won't strip anything. I've tightened it a little bit, and now I can bring the seat post up like this. Afterwards, we can adjust it to how you like it. The seat can be moved back and forward for your comfort, and then also the seat can be moved, angled up or down, depending on how you like it. You won't know that until you hop on it, but I'll show you about that later. Okay, so now I'm going to tighten a little bit more. We just really want to make sure that we do not lose that seat post down the seat tube. Tightening down on both nuts evenly, so first one side and then the other. These guys too need to be pretty tight to make sure that nothing swivels. Now, when I put this into the seat tube, it's going to slide in just like this, just like that, and it can be taken up and down. There is a minimum level, minimum height, so you need to have this much of the seat post inside the seat tube, otherwise it has danger of bending backwards. Wouldn't be enough material to hold the bike. It's also marked there for safety. The way that this seat post is attached in the seat tube is by a quick release mechanism. You may be unfamiliar with this. I'll show you how to do it right now, and then we also have a video on how to use this specifically. This has to be used also exactly properly. If it's not, you won't get to work, and you can possibly break it because there's actually a lot of leverage on this little lever here. This lever is only about 1.5 inches long, but it's actually enough to break the bolt that's attached to if you do this incorrectly. So there's a slotted part in the back of the seat tube that needs to line up with the opening of the seat post clamp. I'm going to put that back on. Also, there's a lip on the seat post clamp. Around the ring of it, there's a little lip. That's going to be at the top. So we'll put that back on, line the opening of the seat post clamp with the slot in the tube, and then we're going to go ahead and put the seat post in here. And then while I'm holding on the nut on the other side with the lever open, I'm going to start tightening with the lever open. And then when I get it pretty firm, I'm going to see if I can swing this lever forward. I can, but it's a little bit too easy, so it seems like it's too loose. So we'll go ahead and get a little tighter. I'm actually doing this by holding the nut and then turning the lever because it gives me a little more leverage. And then I'm going to close it. When I close it, it must be in the forward direction, and it must go along the body of the seat post clamp. It has to be like this. If you don't do it like this, you'll either not get the seat post clamped properly, or you may also break the seat post clamp, as I just mentioned. A lot of times you'll see folks who have it clamped in an upward direction like that. That's a very good way to just snap that bolt. It can happen. Also, they might do it backwards like this, in which case the seat post clamp can swing much too far. It needs to be just forward and just nestled along the body of the seat post clamp, just like this. You must position it like that. and that will hold the seat post nice and firmly. This can slide a little bit, but that's because I need to tighten these nuts a little more. What you want to do too is start off with the seat a little bit, you want it to be level with the ground to start off with. Afterwards, you may wish it to be tilted down perhaps, or maybe even up a little bit. It depends. But when you start off, it'll be roughly level with the ground. We'll grab that 14 or possibly 13 millimeter, and we're going to tighten that down again. Again, evenly. And these can be really tight also. These are some other nuts that need to be tightened down quite firmly until you can't twist it at all. Okay? So now what we can do is let's go ahead and install the rear rack. I'll take off all the packaging. If you run into any issues at all in terms of like missing parts or broken parts, just give us a call. You know, stuff does happen in transit. Every now and then there may be a defect. So just let us know, give us a call. We can do, there's several ways to take care of things. A lot of times a visit to a bike shop is a great way to go. If your bike does arrive needing bike shop attention, we will reimburse you for that visit. And another way too is for us to just send a new part. So whichever you prefer, we want to make sure that you have a perfect bike. Okay, that's very important to us. On the rear wheel, there's a circular piece of plastic right here. Again, this is packaging. That's not a part of the bike, so you can discard that. Now, the hardware that you need is already installed on the bicycle. There's going to be 4 little bolts, and these are, let me check. I forget if they're 4 or 5 millimeter. There's a 4 up here, and then down below is a 5 millimeter. Okay, so remove those from the bottom and remove them from the top. And then we're just going to simply line the holes up on the rack with the holes on the bike. And as with anything that you're assembling, when you're putting in the fasteners, the screws in this case, just put them in loosely, just get them started, and then tighten down everything afterwards. Makes it much easier. And that's with any assembly of any item. Don't tighten the fasteners down until they're all in place. Here we go. Okay, so now I have them all in place, but the rack is loose. So now we'll go ahead and tighten the screws down. 5 millimeter here on the bottom, nice and tight. Don't, on these guys, just make them firm. Don't give them everything you got. You could strip these or break them. Actually, these are very small screws. It's pretty much anybody could break these if they get, by giving it all of their force. So you just want a little bit of finesse and just make sure it's just snug, and we'll hold the rack how you need it. Don't let anyone ride on this rack. It's not made for that. We say it can hold 15 pounds, maybe a little more, but it's mostly for carrying, you know, some things to the beach, your towels and some water, a basket or a bag, maybe some textbooks if you're using this for school. But I would never put a passenger on this particular rack. It just doesn't have enough strength. These bolts are small, and they're plenty strong enough for what they're made for, but they do have a physical limit. Okay, so in the parts box, you'll also find a bag of extra hardware. These are supposed to be marked extra. In this case, it's not marked extra, so don't panic. These are just extra hardware for you in case something is missing on your bike. But these should not be needed for assembly. All the hardware that you need is already on the bicycle. That extra bag is extra hardware. There's a little part, and then this is the last part that's in the parts box. This is a little cosmetic piece called the lock nut cap. All it does is, this is called the headset, this assembly here. It covers the top of the headset. So you can just place that on there. It makes it look a little cleaner. And we'll go ahead and install the handlebars. The handlebars come together with two parts, the handlebars and the stem. I should note, on the bottom of the stem, I just pulled it off already, but let me pull it out of this plastic bag here. There's another piece of packaging. This is often confused for a part of the bike. So on the bottom of the handlebar stem, this is the handlebar, and this is the handlebar stem. There's an iron wedge on the bottom here, and it has a cylindrical plastic cap. This is just for packaging so that that wedge doesn't scratch something on the bicycle. So pull that plastic piece off and throw it away. You cannot assemble the bike with this on the stem. Discard that, okay? I should mention, conventionally and definitely in a bike shop, if a bike is built, they'll put grease in 3 places. They'll put it on the pedal threads, they'll put it on the seat post, and they'll put it here on the stem and on that wedge. The reason for that is not that it's a functional, it's not a functional part of the bike to do that. It's just done so that if the bike is left out in the weather or if it's ridden in the rain a lot or something like that, the parts could eventually seize. Any metal can do that on any bike. So it is just commonplace to put grease on those parts. You don't need the grease to put the bike together. You probably don't ever need the grease at all. If you do not have grease, I wouldn't worry about it. If you are worried about corrosion or the parts seizing, you could put the grease on at any time later on. If you obtain grease, or if you have a neighbor you want to borrow some grease from, then you can do that. I'm just going to remove this packaging. It takes a little while here. Okay, sweet. And then this is going to use the 6mm Allen, okay? So we simply make sure that wedge is, so the stem bolt, which goes all the way through the stem, the quill part of the stem right here, needs to be loose enough that the wedge isn't riding up past the slanted part of the bottom of the stem, but it should also be tight enough that it's not so loose that it will just spin around inside of the head tube. So here we go. We'll place the stem down into the head tube. This can be adjusted up and down. It also has, just like the C-post, it also has a marking that shows you how high you can raise the stem. Don't pull it higher than the minimum insertion mark, okay? It could be bent that way, and that could be a really bad problem. It could lead to an accident. So this is another one here with the 6mm. Just go ahead and make it as tight as you can. While you're doing that, I like to stand over the front wheel and hold the bike upright, and I sight along the front wheel with one eye. Sometimes I close one eye and then I close the other, and I get it nice and aligned up. As you're riding, you may find that you feel like it's not aligned, in which case just loosen it up a little bit and turn it to the left or the right to line it up. But that's how it's done, by eye. So okay, and now the handlebars, as you see, are facing down, not in the proper position. That's so that we can get it all into the box and ship it via FedEx according to their dimensions and give you a good price on shipping. So we're going to have to tilt these up, all right? We probably would have to adjust them anyway. So we're just going to loosen a little bit. I'm going to give this about one turn there, and then I can raise the handlebars up. And we can adjust them to any angle that we like, depending on what is most comfortable. We're going to start off with them level, approximately level with the ground. That's how it starts. Go ahead and tighten this one down. It's a 6mm Allen, nice and tight. You want that to be a really firm, positive connection, so the handlebars don't slip down while you're riding. Okay? Now, that's perfect. Very good. The bike is just about ready to ride here. We do have a reflector that's already on the handlebars for you. This can be tightened down a little bit further with the Phillips head screwdriver and on the back of one of your Allen wrenches there. There we go. There's already a rear reflector on the rear rack. Now the last thing you need to do is go ahead and pump the tires up to 40 psi. They do come with some pressure, but they're not fully pressure, not up to full pressure. The bike will ride much, much better if you keep it fully at 40 psi. So I always recommend topping those off for every ride. Any bicycle tire will lose pressure over time, and actually rather quickly. It can lose a few pounds of pressure even after a week. So I would pump up the tires probably every time I ride, or at least once a week or two. Or check it, you know, if you haven't ridden in a while, definitely pump the tires back up. It can be, if you let it gradually get to a lower pressure, you won't really notice that it's getting harder to ride, but then if you pump it back up to 40, you'll see there's a massive difference in the ease of riding with that, with the bike fully pumped up. So anyway, go ahead and take it out for a test ride. This bike should be completely ready to go. If there's anything strange, you'll notice it in the test ride. For instance, if the chain guard is rubbing on the chain, or if it's doing anything else, just give us a call, and we can get it taken care of. But you know, this bike is ready to ride, and I don't foresee that you should have any difficulties at all. Again, if you do run into anything, we're here to help. We want to make sure that we get you riding as fast as we can. So give us a call, 310-982-2877, or email us at theteam@sixthreezero.com. Thanks so much. Take care. Have a good ride.